Operator, the system needs you. Will you begin another mission?
So that was the Chains of Harrow. Overall, I feel it's sort of an exploration of a new genre for the game, especially delving into sort of horror kind of elements. I do have, some questions and some thoughts. For one thing, the Red Veil Syndicate basically sort of regarded Rel as a guardian. He was protecting them all. What was he protecting them from? He was protecting them from the man in the wall. Something older than the stars themselves. Now, various franchises have sort of dealt with this kind of Lovecraftian theme. Warhammer 40,000 is one of them. Warhammer 40,000 has the warp, and just like the void, it's used so that spaceships can travel faster than light through this sort of other dimension. But in Warhammer 40,000, your ship needs to be protected by a Geller field. And if that field breaks, then the stuff that lives in the void, or rather the warp in this case, can get inside of your ship, and there's really bad stuff out there. Now, what is that stuff? Well, chiefly it concerns things like warp demons. Now, where did these things come from? Well, in Warhammer 40,000, originally the warp was empty. It was a perfect, pure, white, empty space. It was a void of sorts. And the essential thing is that in this space you could travel faster than light. But the thing is that the race that discovered it, they ended up in a war with these sort of star-devouring beings. And so they realized that they were vulnerable, however, to warp energy. So they created races, like humans and others, that had psychic powers. And these psychic powers channeled the energy of the warp so that they could fight them. But things go wrong, and the precursor sort of race loses the war. And part of what contributes to it is the fact that humans and other non-ancient races, all of their emotions would also bleed from their minds, their consciousness, into the warp. And it would pollute it. And all this kind of stuff began building up and began taking on a life of its own. And the thing is that even though there's lots of aliens and stuff like that, the central battle of Warhammer 40,000 is man versus himself. Not just other men, but what's already inside of him. And so when a person dies in Warhammer 40,000, if their soul is really, really strong, their consciousness can continue to exist after they're dead. But most people aren't like that. Most people are too weak. So their consciousness is torn apart. And so all of the emotions that make them up, especially the powerful negative ones, they all get ripped apart into their individual little bits, and they sort of sort themselves out and assimilate with like stuff. And they form these sort of vortices of like emotions. For example, rage, or bloodthirst, or hatred, or things like that, or despair. And these sort of things swirl together in eddies. And these coalesce into the chaos gods, who in turn try to influence people so they can bring about more of their requisite emotion in the universe, in society. And so, when you look at it like this brings a new angle to Warframe. Because every single enemy that we've had has been descended from the Orokin Empire. Whether it's the Grineer, whether it's the Corpus, whether it's the Infested, which were a result of the Technocyte virus also made by the Orokin, or it's the Sentients, which were also created by the Orokin. But the thing that Rel hints at is that there's other stuff that's out there in the universe, or even in the void itself. And there's really, really bad, weird, horrible stuff that man should never look at. Now, I'm not sure what he means by the man in the wall, because we never actually saw the man in the wall. But what we did, what this could be like, for example, could be something like Full Metal Alchemist, when we talk about truth, and the gate of truth, and all the weird, shadowy stuff, and the eyes, and other things that are behind that gate, or that doorway, that Edward Elric opens up. I think this could be somewhat like that. I think that there's other stuff that's out there. Now, the Red Veil Syndicate talks about it as if it's divine. Now, various characters have said things like, "May the Void forgive you," or "May the Void have mercy on you." So, I don't know that it's been... I mean, the Orokin used transference, and the Yavon theaters and whatnot to prolong their life. They transferred their consciousness from one person's body, the one they were born with, to another person's body, and they took it over. So more or less they have a sort of scientific reasoning or demonstration of the soul existing. And so they talk about the Tenno as being divine. And so there's a kind of sort of interesting question. What is the man in the wall? Is he like God? And since Rel, or Harrow, was protecting people from the man in the wall, you have to question, what is the wall? And what's behind the wall? And if this is a kind of God, what kind of God is it? And what does it want? Now, at the end of the